It all began in a small village, where Sino, the youngest of 3 daughters, was born. Her sisters, Vida and Siku, shared the same father, while Sino had a different one. Sadly, their mother died a few months after Sino's birth. Orphaned, Sino experienced an unstable childhood. Vida and Siku's father had multiple wives, and the children moved from one household to another, facing poverty and a lack of affection. Siku had a soft, enchanting voice that could move hearts. Sino moved with grace, sometimes dreamy, sometimes full of life, captivating every gaze. Vida, the eldest, was sharp-minded. She could organize, negotiate, and attract the right people around her. A few years later, Vida married a wealthy man and moved to the city. She convinced Sino to come with her to offer her a better future. Sino enrolled in the local school and did her best to fit in. She quickly caught the attention of Kido, a young, locally admired musician. Their bond was evident. Kido composed, and Sino danced. Things began to get complicated. Tensions arose with her sister. One day, Vida decided to throw her out of the house. Sino then went to live with her boyfriend, Kido, a musician. Sino and Kido lived together. One day, Kido decided to go make music in another country and took Sino with him. They were well received, and Sino became pregnant. Unfortunately, Kido's music group had problems with the government and were arrested. Sino, being pregnant, was also arrested for lack of documentation. A few months later, they were released and sent back to their country. They settled in a village. Kido refused to return to their home country and stayed in the foreign country. Tired and broken, she returned to Vida, who received her with surprise, but also compassion. Sino gave birth to Nimu. It was a rebirth. Working tirelessly, she laid the foundation for a new life for herself and her son. For years later, longing to settle down, she joined Kido in Kanairo. Life seemed to brighten. Kido performed in concerts, and she worked alongside him. But the arguments resumed. Kido often traveled to Samba, where he stayed for long periods due to work. However, he also remained there because he had a mistress named Sabrina. Meanwhile, life was becoming increasingly difficult for Sino in Kanairo, until one day she decided to join her husband in Samba. She found him with another woman, his partner, he said. Sino felt betrayed, hurt. She turned to the church. The community, moved by her story, helped her rebuild. She left Kido when Nimu was 7. Shortly after, Kido converted, began playing guitar in the church band, and appeared repentant. They grew close again, and Sino became pregnant, until the arrival of Sarah, born prematurely. What followed was a nightmare. The baby spent 3 months in an incubator, barely surviving. Unable to afford the medical bills, Sino left the hospital before Sarah was officially discharged. During the 3 months Sino was in the hospital with the baby, Nimu was living with his father. The latter no longer took care of him. Nimu was completely neglected. When Sino was discharged from the hospital, she was shocked to see Nimu's condition, very dirty, emaciated, and uncared for. She immediately started taking care of him again. The lack of follow-up care led to Sarah's death. The couple collapsed under the weight of the tragedy. Kido accused Sino of negligence. She blamed him for imposing cultural pressures. According to tradition, a man should not unite with another woman while his recent wife is still young. The conflict escalated. A fight broke out. Kido called the police. Sino was arrested and spent a night in jail. When she was released, Kido had abandoned Nimu at a bar for the night. Sino decided enough was enough. She took Nimu, returned to the village, and cut ties for good, turned to her roots and motherhood back in her homeland. After 5 years, Sino was surprised to be welcomed only by Siku. Vida was living in Europe. Caught between hope and sadness, she met Patu, with whom she had Ris, then Kaibwa. The early days were happy, but Patu was often absent. When he left without a trace, Sino was left alone with 3 children. Not long after, Vida returned to sell a house, the very one Sino lived in. Nimu helped his grandfather. Siku urgently took her sister in. Vida's meager financial help wasn't enough. Then Sino met an expatriate and became pregnant again. Before the birth of her 4th child, Ditu, he vanished. Sino gave birth under difficult conditions. The maternity ward was poorly equipped. Vida paid for the delivery but never visited. Siku and Nimu supported Sino, hosting her in a small house near Siku's. Vida opened a restaurant, which she entrusted to Siku. Sino, however, had to manage on her own. Under Nimu's protective gaze, now a teenager, she desperately searched for work, street vendor, laborer's helper. Nothing came easy. She felt the gap widening between her and her sisters, who ran a restaurant while she and her children struggled to survive. Bitterness unveiled one day. While Vida and Nimu were heading to visit Siku, they passed by Sino's house. Nimu asked, "Auntie, is Mom home? Can we stop and say hi?" "Not now. We'll do that on the way back." On the way back, same answer. Curious, Nimu later asked his mother, "Mom, why don't they ever want to see you? And why do you struggle to find work when my aunts run a restaurant and you can barely feed us?" Moved, Sino shared the burden of her abandonment with her son, never fully accepted by her family, not by her father's children, nor even by her own sisters. It was a moment of truth and deep compassion between mother and son. One day, Sino began introducing Nimu to other family members, but they ignored her. The story of Sino, carried by Nimu's resilience and her love, remains a powerful testament to a woman who never stopped fighting for her children, despite a world that was often unkind.